of the day. He has been a Toastmaster for almost 41 years. He looks so young, look at him. He's a general contractor specializing in restoration, rehab, and mold remediation. He is also a professional master of ceremonies and an auctioneer. That's cool. Over the past 41 years, he has held many club, area, division, and district officer positions. He spent 25 years organizing and running Chamber of Commerce and networking organizations. He was the vice president of the Broward County Council of Chambers and participated in the development of the Wendy's Ambassadorship Program at Nova High School. He also started his own Chamber of Commerce and built the organization to over 600 members. He is a former member of the Broward County Housing Finance Authority, Broward County Economic Development Board, and the Broward County Committee of 100. He has been making people laugh as the contest masters for more Toastmasters clubs, areas, divisions, and districts for so long, even Ryan Seacrest is getting jealous. Wow. Tonight, he is here to teach us how to improve our humor in our presentation. The title of his presentation is Humor is Serious Business. Please let me welcome distinguished Toastmaster David Espisito.
Thank you, I deserve that. My name is David Espisito, and yes, I'm Italian, and I know what's going through your mind right now, Italian. He has been referred to in District 47 as the godfather of District 47, and everybody thinks I'm in the mafia. But I want you to know that not all Italians are in the mafia. Some of us are in witness protection. And Italians get a bad rap. My Uncle Nunzio was walking down the street in New York City around Times Square, peeling an apple with a stiletto. And someone ran right around the corner and ran into Uncle Nunzio's knife 14 times in the back. And for that, they gave him life in prison. Do you think that's fair? You put all Italians into the same category. Well, it's not. Now, that was an example of self-deprecating humor. What we did is poke fun at me, my family, not poke fun at the audience, not poke fun at any other specific individuals. But the various types of humor all depend on what you, as a speaker, feel comfortable with. Do you feel comfortable poking fun at yourself? Do you feel comfortable poking fun at audience members or specific groups? And depending on who you are and your level of tolerance for how the audience perceives you is the way in which you're going to design yourself. Everyone has a style. I've developed certain things that I do on a regular basis when I'm the MC or the Toastmaster or whether I'm a contest master. I do certain things that most people feel are unique to me. Now, I have no filter. That thing in your brain that most people have, that you think before you speak, I don't have it. My daughter has inherited this. One day you'll get to find that out. But as I speak, I take liberties that some people may not do. And the reason I do that is I feel I can get away with it. I feel with the years that I put into Toastmasters, I get away with a lot more at Toastmasters than I may in the general public. Now, everyone loves a funny one. Everyone loves a clown. Is there anyone here that has never been to a comedy club? All right. When you go to a comedy club, you see all different types of people. Everyone has a different way. Some of them pick on themselves. Some of them are storytellers. Some of them, Don Rickles recently passed away. He was the king of insults. Joan Rivers, another queen of insults. These were excellent comedians. I've seen both of them many times over the years. And I really enjoy what they do because it's a gift. But if you ever listen to them and pay attention, they're not insulting. They pick on all ethnicity. They pick on all religions. They pick on all cultures. So it's an equal opportunity type of insult. It's not just one way. So she doesn't make the audience feel bad. People find it's humorous. It's a joke. And what's the most important thing when you're giving a presentation and you want to gain the audience's attention. Well, humor is a great way to do it. Start the people laughing and end with laughter. Because when you're laughing, you tend to pay greater attention when you leave. I remember what that person said because they did it with a joke. They did it with a one-liner. They did it with a story that was funny. Each time they do that, you have the opportunity to give your attention to not only the humor, but the point that they're trying to make when they give that presentation. As a humor speaker, or as a joke teller or a storyteller, I find that a lot of inexperienced people who try to incorporate this into their presentations tend to speak too fast and not give the audience the opportunity to take advantage of the punchline. Now, the punchline can be a word, it could be a phrase, and it could actually be total silence that would make you laugh. But you need to allow the audience to have laughter. And the only way to do that is to set them up, to give them a story and a punchline. But have pauses before the punchline, after the punchline, to give the audience opportunity to digest what you've just said. The best audience you can have for a humorous presentation is a large audience. Now, why do I say that? Large audiences, everyone doesn't think the same thing is funny. But one thing about humor is contagious. If I say something funny and these gentlemen do not get it, but maybe these ladies over here will, they'll start laughing. And eventually, the rest of the people will. You cannot please everyone in an audience, so don't try. Try and make it so neutral that everyone else in the audience is going to get it. Now, there may be a few that do not. Why don't people use humor? A lot of people fear embarrassment, or they're afraid. They don't want to tell a joke. And what's a reason why you wouldn't want to tell a joke in public anyway?
Because no one laughs.
Right, and you bombed.
You can offend somebody.
Who do you think was the best at recovering from a joke that bombed? Think of somebody. I give you a hint. He's a past late night talk show host.
David Letterman.
Johnny Carson. Johnny Carson used to do something.
They don't know who Johnny Carson is.
Carson is.
You do.
They're too young.
Johnny Carson was the second Tonight Show host ever to be the host of the Tonight Show, even before Johnny Carson used to do his monologue. Then he'd go to a desk and he'd sit down and he'd talk, and he'd have a variety of things to say. And a lot of times when he said them, kind of like what David Letterman used to do, 10 things about, and he'd count down from 10 to 1. Johnny Carson used to do a lot of things. Well, one of the things that may not get a laugh or bomb, as they say in the profession, he would then say this, no one would look, he'd look at the audience, and then he'd crumple up the paper, throw it over his shoulder and say, I didn't like that either. And guess what the audience did? They would laugh. So he learned how to recover from a bomb. If you do bomb, and you are telling a joke or a story, don't repeat it. If they didn't get it the first time, I trust they won't get it the second time. Or maybe it was you. The way you delivered the punchline, they didn't get it. But don't continue on. How many people were at the conference this past week? At the conference this past weekend during Table Topics, one of the speakers, who by the way was the runner-up, she, at the end of her presentation, turned to the contest master and said, Madam Contest Master. Well, it wasn't a madam, it was a man. But she said, ooh, I'm sorry, Mr. Contest Master. And after it was over with, I told her presentation was good, but she never should have apologized for anything she said. Everyone laughed. Take the laughter when you can get it. Don't apologize for making a mistake. She was human. And it still was enough for her to be runner-up on that contest. Maybe, just maybe, if she didn't say I'm sorry or correct herself, maybe no one else would have caught on. And she might have gone on to even do better and have won the competition. Bonding with the audience is very important when you're doing humor, because the audience wants to connect with you and you want to connect with the audience. And the only way you're going to do that is to create a connection in what you do. When you create that connection, the best thing you can do is to know your audience. It doesn't matter if there's hundreds of people or whether dozens of people. Connect with your audience. Be there early. Look at your audience, listen to your audience. Or if there are people that hire you or bring you in to be a speaker, you may have the opportunity to ask questions. Tell me about your audience. What's the makeup? How many men? How many women? What's the age group? Where are they from? These are all things that you can use to help you plan well in advance the type of humor that you think they might like. You have to have certain things and stories that are generic enough where you can give it to any audience. Doesn't matter whether young and old, whether they're male, female, doesn't matter. You want to be able to present to them what you think they're going to like. Now, where do you find humor? Anybody?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Relationships, families, kids, husbands, wives, bosses, jobs. Doesn't matter what it is. Humor is everywhere. You just have to know to look for it and exaggerate it. Make it something that's your own. Exaggerate it, whether it be in the form of a story or whether it be just in an exaggeration. When you're talking about somebody's age, I say all the time, I don't know where all the young people are that join Toastmasters, because do they think that when they reach middle age, that is the only time they need to worry about communication skills? We need younger people. Look around the audience, and I did this at the conference. I said, look at the median age of this audience. It's about 106. It was probably 56, but 106 sounded funnier. And when you refer to somebody as something costs too much money, don't say hundreds, say in the thousands. Make it overly exaggerated, because that's the thing that makes humor funny. You're taking something that everybody can relate to, you exaggerate the situation. You can talk about your children with no filter on their vocabulary. You can talk about your relationships. You can talk about wanting to find a future ex-wife. When I got divorced a few years ago, and usually when I tell audiences that, they go, aw, and I usually tell them, don't be upset because I got divorced, because just like it takes two people to make a marriage, it requires two people to break up a marriage, my wife and her boyfriend. So, it is important to develop a style. And you need to find out what works for you. How are you going to find out what works for you? Anybody? Trial and error. Somebody said, you said, that this was the best place to come to make mistakes. This is your testing ground. Some of you said, I come here because I want to practice. This is a good place to start and practice. When you give presentations, the only way you're going to know if it works or not is to actually try it. If it doesn't work, don't use it again. But like I said, and you also may find that some audiences think a specific joke or story is funny, and you may find some audiences that just sit there deadpan, and no matter what you say, it's real tough. I've been to comedy clubs before. I've been on comedy club stages. I've taken classes at the Improv Comedy, and I can tell you that comedy club audiences, especially if they've been drinking, are tough crowds. Now, they can be either way. They can be great because they're relaxed and they're out, they have a good time. But then you get some of them, especially as the ones that sit in the front row, that probably shouldn't have been the ones that sit in the front row. I think the comedian should have the criteria for who gets to sit in the front row, because they sit there and they almost dare you to make them laugh. And no matter what you say, at some point, you have to call them out on it. You have to be willing to go to someone and say something to them, not to hurt their feelings, but merely to find out what it is that you can do. And that makes the rest of the audience usually howl and laugh, because they sat in the back because they didn't want to be picked on. Madeline's mom and I have an age difference of about 25 years, and we loved going to comedy clubs, but I can guarantee that every comedy club we went to, we were part of the show, because they always have something to say, some reason to express how we got together. Was it an error in computer dating? How did it happen? These are the things that comedians like to pick on. I love to try new material, and I use Toastmaster meetings all the time. How many people have heard me give one last thought? At the end of a presentation, or if I'm a contest master, a Toastmaster of the evening, a master evaluator, or a table-topping master, at the end of the night, I will usually say, and before I return control of the lectern, I'd like to leave you with this one last thought. However, one last thoughts usually are about 6 or 7 one last thoughts. And each one of them, now some of them are great, some of them aren't great, but I still say them. And it's something that most people tend to expect when it comes out of me at a contest situation or being a Toastmaster evening. And that's a style that I developed many years ago, but I keep it up. I keep doing it. I've never been on Facebook, but there's a Toastmaster named Lydia Harris who's told me I need to get on Facebook. I said, fine, you create it. She created a Facebook page for me, and so I gave her lists and lists of one last thought. So she's been putting on my Facebook page. I have no idea who's on my Facebook page. I probably don't want to know. Either that or they're all in the post office wall. But it is something that I'm getting responses of, because although people think it's corny, they respond on it. And the joke's on them. The whole idea is that they're going to respond for it, and someday I'm going to decide to drive them through a business page that I want them to go to, and they commented on it. And now I'm starting to see other people on my Facebook page on a daily basis put some kind of thought or saying. So it's contagious. Whatever you do is contagious. So to find humor, whatever it is, pick something that you think works for you and try it. Now, don't be afraid to steal humor. If anything I say here tonight you want to repeat later, feel free. It's not plagiarism. I just put it out here to public. You want to take it, use it, feel free to do it. And it's something that you need to figure out what's going to work for you. But in order to be funny, especially if you're doing it in a story type atmosphere, you have to first set up the story. You have to make sure that the audience knows what the parameters are. You have to create a character. That character can be you, or it can be a friend, it can be a relative, it can be an animal, whatever you want it to be. And then learn how to deliver a punchline. And you can do that several ways. You can videotape yourself and then watch it and see if you think it's funny. You can try it on Toastmaster audiences to see if it's funny. You can also go someplace totally different than Toastmasters and try it. Use them at work. Hopefully you won't get fired. Don't use some of the things I would say, but use some of the things that you think you can get away with. And one of the things that you have to be most careful of is at how you deliver it. Don't ever do it in a mean or in a way in which is going to be hurtful to someone else. Humor is that. It's funny. We all want to have a laugh at it. So I used to start picking on me first, because I know that I could get a laugh out of an audience picking on me. There's so many things about me that I can say that will make you laugh. But do I want to turn around and pick on you? It's happened before, but I don't do it in a mean-spirited way. I do it in a fun way. I comment sometimes when people talk. I do it from the lectern. I do it from my seat. It just depends on the situation. Victor and Darren and a number of people have heard me do that before, who've been in meetings that I've been in. And it does make the atmosphere of the meeting more fun. Yes, in some ways it is disruptive, but I don't do it in a way to disrupt as much as I do to help the audience have a good time and enjoy themselves at a meeting. How many people think it's a good idea to laugh at your own jokes? No, it's not. It's not a good idea to laugh at your own jokes. Because the element of surprise in a punchline is the most important thing that you can give. You want to set the audience up, especially if you're a good storyteller. And not everybody is, but good storytellers make great humorous speakers. people like Mark Twain, where that's all he did. He told stories and he did humors. You hear many public speakers, professional speakers, motivational speakers, they tell funny stories. It doesn't matter if the story is true or made up. The idea is that it has all the elements that you need to make the audience laugh. Now, you can make it believable by the way you present it. So set the audience up for the joke. But if you start to laugh too soon, or if you start to laugh at your own joke, then you're gonna find that the audience isn't gonna respond the way you want. You want some jokes to be little chuckles, but some jokes you really want to be belly laugh, because those are the things that you really wanted to drive home. You need to rehearse. Now, you can rehearse at Toastmasters, you can rehearse in front of your family, or you can set up a video camera. We have the technology now that we didn't have when I first joined Toastmasters. Darren called me tonight and said, did I want any kind of technology for tonight? I said no, and somebody else, and he asked me about, am I doing a PowerPoint? Well, when I joined Toastmasters 41 years ago, no one ever heard the word PowerPoint. My idea of PowerPoint, that was PowerPoint. That was it. Old school. But some people like PowerPoint. But if you are going to use it, whether it's a presentation or a speech, technology, to me, is evil. Technology is, if you know how to use it, it works well. But if equipment malfunctions, you don't use it right, the power goes out, what are you gonna do? You have to know it, besides when you put it on a wall or a screen. You wanna make sure that you know the material. If you don't know the material, I have been in situations before where I've been MC or facilitator or moderator at a conference, and the speaker would come in with a PowerPoint presentation, and either equipment would go wrong, the power would go out, the audio would go out, something was wrong with the zip drive that they stuck in the computer, and they were lost. Because they depended so much on technology. So depend on yourself more than you depend on technology. If you do bomb when you are making a presentation, always try to recover quickly and just move on. Don't dwell on the fact that you made a mistake. Don't dwell on the fact that you didn't get a laugh. If you can recover a bomb by doing some kind of gesture or saying something, you can even say, those are the kind of jokes that kept me from being a stand-up comedian. Then the audience will probably laugh. Or you could say, I didn't like that one either. They all can't be winners. All these different expressions to recover and keep going. But don't ever go back and try and repeat it, because it's not gonna work for you. When you do make a mistake, a lot of times people tend to stop, apologize, or in even worse cases, you panic. You lose your train of thought, you lose what you were about to say, and now all of a sudden you can't. And when you use notes, always take the note cards, the note paper, and number it. How many people have ever given a presentation, come up to the lectern and drop their notes on the floor? Other than me. I've done that. But I always have them numbered. Why? Because I want to be able to pick them up quickly and put them back. It is a possibility that they're going to fall, or they're going to get messed up the order. And we don't want to have that. What we want is for you to make a nice presentation the way you had intended it to be. Now, if a joke doesn't work, or a presentation isn't funny, only person you have to blame is you. Never try to blame the audience. Always look at yourself and say, what could I have done to make that work better? Go back to the drawing board and start working on it again. If you've ever learned to practice speaking, you need to learn even more practice to deliver humor, because it takes practice in the delivery, the timing, how you say something, how the audience receives it. And when you're done giving a presentation, look at the reaction of the audience. Go back and take notes as soon as possible on the reactions of the audience. What worked, what didn't work. And always carry around a clipboard, a pad, something with you that you could write jokes on. Watch Comedy Central. Go to comedy nightclubs. Watch funny shows. Write down sentences, statements, sayings people have used that have gotten a presentation. Programs aren't as easy as a stand-up comic, because a presentation that you hear coming out of a television show usually has canned laughter, so you don't know if the audience really picked up on it. But if you like what they said, write it down. Find ways to incorporate phrases, expressions, words. Use words that sound funnier than they really are. One of my Toastmasters in the Great Fort Lauderdale Club, when I first joined, one of the men that actually got me more interested in humorous speeches than anyone in Toastmasters, used to give a speech called The Art of Malapropism, which means you say words that sound like other words, but they are different words with totally different meanings. So he would actually say this presentation. He won a few humorous speech contests with it, and he would give it over and over and over again until he got it right. But the funny part is, he has certain words that he would say that you would totally think he was saying something rude, vulgar, obscene, but it wasn't, but you just had to know, and he would do it. And then after I did that, I did a speech one time that I would always say at the very end that you're all inconsiderate individuals who lack sufficient cultivation to comprehend your own lack of significance. Furthermore, if your plebeian attitudes persist, I will be forced to resort to more caustic vituperations. I will then inflict a series of inspontaneous blows to your head area, each consisting of more strength and power than its predecessor. So it is your prerogative to keep antagonizing me. Just the fact that I could say that without a breath was enough to get a laugh out of the audience. And I would end presentations with that statement, and audiences would love it. So I ask you, do you think you're funny? Because if you do, and you want to continue using humor in your presentations, you have to realize that humor is serious business, and it takes 3 important ingredients: practice, practice, practice. Mr. President.